Statements. I call the member for Coogee.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise today to address the Parliament on the abhorrent racist and anti-Semitic assault from students from Jewish schools in my electorate of Coogee, which took place on a bus yesterday afternoon. The abuse shakes the foundations of our multicultural society. There's no place for racism in Australia, especially against school-aged children, some of whom I understand are as young as 5. What makes this attack all the more deplorable is not only the discriminatory abuse and the threat of violence, but it was directed at small children. The need to protect our children from such damaging assaults is paramount within any community and must not be tolerated. And from damaging assaults is paramount within any community and must not be tolerated. I don't care what your views are on world events currently. You don't bring that kind of offensive abuse into Australian society. These events do not just affect the children and their parents. They do not only offend the friends and relatives of these children. They offend the entire Jewish community and any person in this country who values our multicultural community and our way of life. The actions taken by the young men on that bus are below any measure of civil society and should be universally deplored and condemned. Such racism has no place in this state. Again, I don't care what your views of world events are, you don't bring that kind of offensive abuse into Australian society. My electorate of Coogee has a large and resilient Jewish community, but I have no doubt that this attack will shake all of them to the core. During this time of high international criticism directed towards the Israeli government, we must remember that all Australians should live free of racism and discrimination, no matter what their religious denomination. A clear differentiation must be made between the actions of the government of the State of Israel and the Jewish people. Despite events on the international stage, our community has the right to live freely without enduring abuse and threats like those espoused on that bus yesterday. I'd like to commend also the Commonwealth Government on their recent decision not to proceed with changes to Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act. I was pleased to stand with the New South Wales Government and take a leading role in unequivocally opposing these proposed changes because I fully appreciate the importance of protections currently in place under the Federal Racial Discrimination Act. The abhorrent abuse that was directed towards these children yesterday demonstrates quite clearly the need to protect minorities and those from other countries or those who follow other religions. I'd also like to take this time to commend the New South Wales police officers who acted so quickly to apprehend the individuals involved in this attack this morning. I'm sure that they'll act within the full force of the law and all resources available to them to bring these people to justice. I'm saddened to acknowledge that this trauma will not so easily be remedied for the young children involved in the attack. The actions taken by the 5 youths were committed in a single drunken act of stupidity. We should bear in mind the age of the alleged perpetrators, but the damage caused to these children and the Jewish community will be a prolonged and arduous experience. I'd like to extend my sympathy to the families and to the broader Jewish community. We're lucky to live in this country that we do, Mr Speaker, which has been free from the kind of activities that we see in so many other parts of the world. We embrace multiculturalism and we recognise that people who live in Australia have come from many parts of the world. How can we possibly teach children about harmony and tolerance when such events occur in front of them and are directed towards them? This government will not accept racism and discrimination in any form. We pride ourselves on being accepting of all people from all faiths and places of this world. This is above partisan rhetoric and should be espoused by all sides of politics. We're lucky to live in one of the most harmonious, multicultural societies in the world, and it is incumbent upon all citizens to expose those whose actions are based on racial hatred and who seek to import overseas conflict onto our streets.
I call the